15 things that the wealthy don't do that the poor do. We put together a list of actions that poor people take to ensure their mediocrity, because we know that many of you are on the path to financial prosperity. Please remember that the purpose of all of them is to get you to reflect on your current circumstances and what you could do to better yourself. Take them all with a grain of salt. The truth is, anytime we make a video like this, some individuals will always find something to complain about while you're busy criticizing us in the comments. In order to create a list that is genuinely helpful for you guys, the real losers write things down and consider whether they have space for growth in their own lives. We've spoken to some of our millionaire friends and mentors about how the rich and poor differ from one another in daily life. As usual, there are several exclusions to these guidelines. Not everyone has control over their situation. However, being aware of these behaviors could provide you with a little advantage. Who knows though? Maybe you'd be closer to achieving your ideal objective if you quit doing them. Here are 15 things that the wealthy don't do that the poor do. First, a lot of poor people watch television. I'll put it like this. You're probably poor if you have the time to watch reality TV. It never ceases to amaze me how much time poor people waste watching pointless TV. One of those deterrents that catch your attention and won't let go. If you often watch TV series as the new episodes air, and if you are aware of which celebrities date whom, you're probably viewing too much television if you have a favorite news channel. Consequently, your life is how it is. Let's elaborate. The buzz about celebrities doesn't add anything to your life. It only benefits the famous. Instead of watching TV, the wealthy like to be on it. You could say, however, Alex, I'm watching The Big Bang Theory, a pretty funny program that aids in my ability to decompress. The problem is exactly that. Instead of addressing and resolving your issues, you distance yourself from them. In the words of John Lennon, there are very few instances. It is not lost time if you love wasting it. But give it some actual thought. Should you actually love spending time indoors watching a screen? Before we get to the second thing that individuals in poverty do, I'll explain what we meant when we said we had a preferred news source. You may argue that the only worthwhile benefit of watching television is to keep up with current events, keeping up with news. We have a problem with this since TV stations are always biased in favor of their own agendas. Instead, take advantage of the internet's potential to acquire a brief overview of the state of the world to date before continuing with your own activities. Second, fast food is a staple of the impoverished. Health is very essential, yet a lot of people in poverty don't care what's in their food, don't know what a real nutritious meal should look like, and know very little about nutrition. The brains of the poor are being bombarded with a lot of sugar and fat that has no nutritional benefit. They are intentionally damaging their bodies, which prevents them from operating at their full capacity. All facets of your life are directly impacted by your health. Physically, mentally, professionally, and even romantically, you'll suffer. Thirdly, those who are poor like to purchase discounted goods or clothing. I'll put it like this. Stocks are the only item you should purchase at discount, while others in poverty try to stretch or conserve what little they have. The goal of the wealthy is to raise their revenues. Just consider it. People who could afford to pay full price for the clothes to end up getting the ones that are on sale because they didn't want to. You're simply making sure you appear as though you don't have the money to cover the full cost. The fourth, early in life, poor people awaken later than wealthy people. Early on, poor people tend to be more lazy than rich people. The aforementioned statement may bother some of you much, yet statistically speaking, it is true. A much less probable is someone who used their adolescence to develop themselves to stay poor in later life. Instead, avoid learning if you wake up late. Spend time on pointless pursuits. You'll eventually realize that you are dissatisfied because you are so far behind what the world wants from you. The paradox is that those who don't prioritize growth in their early years wind up having to work harder and with lower success rates later on in life in order to get by. The fifth, sports are quite popular among the poor. There really isn't any need for you to watch sports unless you're a professional athlete or the owner of one of the teams. The same is true of television. It's an attempt to escape your present world. Consider it this way. You are placing yourself in a situation where the result of the game has no bearing on you personally. No effect. If you continue acting in this manner, you eventually become a spectator in life, rather than a participant or an owner. You then start criticizing other people at that point, when you are the only one who could have improved. 6. The frequency of showering is lower among the impoverished than the wealthy. At first, we believe this to be a fabrication, but it turns out to be accurate, and strangely, it explains a lot when you give it some serious thought. Nowadays, the majority of occupations are in service-related fields where successful value exchanges depend on human interaction. People with poor personal hygiene will eventually be less successful than those who do. They are less trusted by the public. People desire to spend less time around them, which has an impact on their personal lives. What kind of partners will you attract if people don't want to be around you and don't like you? Exactly. Even if it can sound absurd, taking a morning shower should be the first step towards success. 7. People in poverty tend to blame others for their problems. How many people do you know that have some form of justification for their lack of success? While some things are beyond our control, you are in charge of 99% of your life. Keep in mind that you are responsible for your life. Your relationships are under your control. Your health is in your hands. You want these things to alter. Consider taking action. What occurs to us in life is not life. It involves how we respond to what occurs to us. The underprivileged tend to choose to victimize themselves when unpleasant things happen. Study it as the wealthy investigate it. They are interested in learning what occurred, why it occurred, and how to avoid it in the future. One adopts the role of a helpless victim. The other exploits it as a developing point. Poor people don't have any savings. The inability of the destitute to prepare for the future is one way in which they differ from the wealthy. Saving money enables development. Say something negative occurs. If you have money saved up, the issue is resolved, and you can get back to living your life. What would you do in an emergency if you didn't? When the crisis is over, you can either sell off an asset, such as your home or car, or you can obtain a loan for the wealthy. They are still there, but without savings. Poor people, however, have either seen a significant reduction in their standard of living or now owe money to creditors. Let's now examine the precise reverse. A chance presents itself. While others cannot afford to fully benefit from this opportunity, those who have money saved up now have the ability to expand their life. Because of this, the wealthiest continue to get richer, while the poor continue to get poorer. The 9th, poor folks borrow money or utilize credit cards for unnecessary expenses. How credit is used by the wealthy and the poor differs significantly. Simple is the law. Don't take a loan if it won't help you make more money than the loan will cost you. It's that easy. If you intend to use credit for an investment, then you should only do so. Want to obtain financing for a sizable TV? Don't need a loan to purchase that new superior equipment. Don't want to purchase the new iPhone with a credit card. Don't unless you're making money by flipping the supreme gear or utilizing your iPhone to create a new app to expand your business. Your credit report shouldn't contain this information. Instead, work for the money before you spend it. More information on this is provided on page 12. 10th, poor individuals tend to have more children and do so sooner in life. However, children are actually very, very expensive. We can all agree that building them, or at least practicing making them, is enjoyable. But till this moment, individuals become stuck. They don't believe it to be true. Just to put things into perspective for you, due to a lack of education, a poor environment, and other issues, raising a child in one of the more industrialized nations will cost you about $250,000. In general, poor people have more kids younger than their wealthy counterparts. But till this moment, individuals become stuck. They don't believe it to be true. Just to put things into perspective for you, due to a lack of education, a poor environment, and other issues, raising a child in one of the more industrialized nations will cost you about $250,000. In general, poor people have more kids younger than their wealthy counterparts. The poor merely go ahead with it, whereas the rich should hold off for a few years till their level of living rises to ensure the ideal environment and conditions for their child to thrive. The struggle starts when the baby is born. It's nearly impossible for them to advance past just existing and keep afloat. Poor people don't visit their doctors on a regular basis, according to number 11. Although the significance of health has already been mentioned, this is a particularly crucial point. Poor folks do not regularly check themselves. Let's imagine that, purely by coincidence, you have a challenging illness. Say you have cancer. If you have regular checkups, you'll catch it early, allowing for less expensive treatment. On the other hand, if you don't, you might not realize it until it's too late. You and your family as a whole will spend a fortune on it. And regardless of how much money you have, you could still pass away. Poor individuals, 12, spend money before they have it. Spending money before you have it is one of the biggest risks you face in life. Your life begins to fall apart the moment you start taking out loans or incurring debt for things you can't afford. You cannot afford something if you lack the funds to purchase it without it negatively impacting your life. Return to your job before obtaining it. 13. Poor people like to be with other poor people. True, unless you are the sum of the 5 individuals you spend the most time with. If there are 4 impoverished people around you, who is the 5th one? One way people ensure they remain poor is by associating with or spending time with other poor people who support their negative viewpoints. You need to surround yourself with individuals who are achieving extraordinary things so that they can motivate and inspire you. Their achievement will only inspire you to go beyond what is now possible. You might want to double-check if you're still hanging around with the same people you did when you were younger. Never be scared to leave the crowd and move on to something more rewarding. If you don't, people who want to feel better about their wretched life by making sure you suffer the same fate will undoubtedly crush your potential. Number 14. People who are poor never realize their ideals or talents. You have no influence over who your parents are, where you were born, or how people treat you in society. The only factor you have any control over is how many hours you devote to your dream. Even though everyone on Earth only gets 24 hours a day, some people accomplish much more than others. It's only a matter of time before you succeed if you commit to learning and applying more of what you're enthusiastic about. 9 out of 10 firms fail during the first 3 years, according to a common belief. Do you know how many failed businesses never even got off the ground? They are all the answers. If you have an idea, develop it, share it, solicit comments, refine it, and launch it again and again. We wrote tens of thousands of articles for AL.com over the course of 3 years before deciding to take the plunge and start creating videos on YouTube. About 15 poor individuals think that others ought to assist them in rising to the top. You owe nothing to the rest of the world. None of them do. Whether you like it or not, you are on your own in this. Everything that occurs in your life is under your control. The problem is that everyone thinks they'll succeed when they're young. Then, though, reality strikes. Only the best of the best are rewarded in the world we live in. Those who never give up. Continued learning leads to continued adaptation. And be aware that nobody will take care of their concerns. Face them directly. Additionally, you might run into others who share your sentiments along the road, with whom you might travel some of the ways. If not, you'll merely join the mass of people who are doomed to failure. Although this movie was somewhat lengthy, we think it might be useful to you on your journey. Do them a favor and show this video to anyone you know who is guilty of any of these 15 offenses. What actions do you think the impoverished take that the wealthy don't? What more might you put on this list? Please tell us in the comments. I see you're still around. Very intriguing. I appreciate you being a real loser. Your bonus fact is here. Rich people are significantly less religious than the poor. Can you picture the mayhem if we played this one first in the video? According to statistics, successful individuals rely on their own resources to be happy, while the underprivileged believe that some fictitious force will somehow reward them for being good. Despite the fact that certain presidents or CEOs may allude to God in their speeches, they are not particularly spiritual. Mark Zuckerberg, the CEO of Facebook, who has been an atheist for the majority of his life, is a perfect example. However, he decided to alter his views because he would soon consider running for office. Please write if you've watched this far and want to demonstrate that you're a real loser. In the comments, I'll have plenty of money. Make your goals known so that we can hold you responsible for them. We appreciate you taking the time to visit with us. To ensure that you never miss a video, make sure to like and subscribe.